brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp, brothers Wisp. The brothers Wisp. The brothers.
You're now listening to
Hey everybody, this is the Brothers Wisp, episode 166. With me today, I have a whole bunch of new face, well, one new face and some older faces. I think, Alex, you've been here before, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, you've been on before, but with Greg, Tomas down below me, and the new face is Jake. So, Jake, you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Sure. I'm Jake. I work with Alex. We are both a part of Madrone Technology Group. We work as an infrastructure provider and consulting company.
And then Alex, who's been here before, where are you guys based out of?
We're out of Cambium, which is outside of Portland in the United States, Oregon.
Okay. All right, and then we have an old face here, Tomas Kirnak.
Hello.
One of my favorites. Where are you these days?
Still in Slovakia.
Yeah. Kicking it. Making Unimis and all sorts of other fun products. And I am in Oregon, Illinois. So big difference. Tommy Krogan, by the way. Here with you. So today we're recording. It's August 1st. Jeez, year is just flying by. Before we get into the meat of the show, as Greg used to say it, let's get the potatoes out of the way. Brought to you, the Brothers Wisp is brought to you by Sonar, a scalable, intuitive, and comprehensive ISP billing and operational support system. Learn more at Sonar.Software. TowerCoverage.com. Tower Coverage is your RF propagation system to empower your network, real-time data metrics, enable your coverage area, reaching your customer base, and more. The industry's best RF propagation mapping system allows website integration for customer sign-up and pre-qualification. Use this data to scientifically plan network expansion and help your WISP succeed. Get a free trial today at TowerCoverage.com. We also just did a cast with Dennis Burgess, the owner of Tower Coverage, talking about the broadband deployment board, BDC councils, whatever, the requirements there for BDC stuff. That was the podcast just previous. It's not numbered, but go ahead and take a look at that. There's some new requirements for the new stuff. You still have to fill out your Form 477 if you're in FCC land, but the BDC is some new requirements. So we talk about that at in the last cast. And then finally, and close to my own heart, PreSeam is an edge network QoE solution that enables proactive management of the network and subscriber experience to achieve higher customer satisfaction while lowering operational costs and increasing revenue. PreSeam is made by Eterlo Networks, whose goal is to enable local and regional ISPs to thrive by solving network problems with products that people love. Launched in 2017, PreSeam has helped more than 400 ISPs in the US and around the world deliver better internet to their subscribers. And I totally butchered PreSeam's owner's name because I am a terrible human being. So you guys laugh, but meh. Okay, so little bit of a shorter show today. I got to meet WISPA's new CEO at the Midwest Broadband Providers Meetup Forum. That happened. That was Thursday last week, and we there was probably about 80 to 100 guys, mostly talking about these requirement changes for those of us in FCC land. But it was good. I really enjoyed it. It was good to see people and good to see classic faces, and a lot of the WISP Talk crowd is there. So I'm always on there and interacting with people. So it was fun to put names to faces and see people. So have you guys been doing any conferencing?
No, I think we're just getting ready to start doing conferences again, or for the first time as Madrone. So, Alex, I think you and Tom, who wasn't able to make it today, were looking at that last week.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Hey, we have another one.
Yeah, we have
Justin.
another. Yeah, he's still muted. Yep. Yeah, you're muted.
Boom. Now?
Boom shakalaka.
All right. How's it going?
Very well.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, I know everyone on this call.
We were just doing intros. You're welcome to hop in.
Yeah. So down below me now is Justin. Where are you at, Justin, these days?
Richmond, Virginia.
Nice.
On the East Coast.
I was there last year. I should have messaged you.
Yeah.
It would have been funny. So let me just make certain that you have the topic sheet, right?
Probably. I can find it. Let me look.
Okay, cool. I'll make certain it's in the oh, Alex is on top of things. He's good. So as I was saying, WISPA has a new chair.
Is it
David
comfortable?
Zumwalt. I liked him. He was one of the better speakers in my opinion at the broadband providers meetup.
Is that a regional?
Yeah, it was Midwest. So like mostly Indiana guys. There was some Illinois. I think there was a couple guys from up in Wisconsin, and there was Michigan. Can't really recall anyone to the south, but I didn't get to meet absolutely everyone. So, but it's like one of the first smaller shows that I've seen occurring recently. So, and in person, which I thought I enjoyed. I missed the in person stuff in 2020. So, and I missed most of the shows last year. Indianapolis. There was what was the hotel? It was a brand new hotel. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was nice.
Right on.
So, let's see here. Ubiquiti has some new gear that they're announcing as well. There's 60 gigahertz point to multi-point CPEs, which they're available, but the access points are not. I totally meant to put that in. Like, I will put a link in here for you guys. But Justin, have you seen any of that?
I have not.
Okay.
I kind of stopped looking at Ubiquiti once they kind of just screwed their distributor channel and went direct. So we're trying the AF60 HD right now, but I haven't really been paying a whole lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
There's been quite a bit of drama with Ubiquiti lately, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's rough, but I mean, the trouble is like, it's just so many guys who are using it. Like, I just, anybody who I interact with who's running a smaller WISP, it's just so hard for them to justify not working, not just it, starting off with Ubiquiti stuff. So
it's definitely easier to use in a lot of aspects than say Microtech or Cambium or other stuff. So
yeah,
it's
and
like a trade-off, right? Because it certain aspects it's very easy. Like that's the use case of Ubiquiti, right? You click a couple of buttons, it works. But at the same time, there are many things which Ubiquiti doesn't do, which can present a challenge later on, specifically with like monitoring and unified management and like all security stuff. Like, yeah, Ubiquiti is a one-click easy thing, but there's a trade-off for maybe a year, 2, 3 in the future that can actually be a detriment.
Yeah, it's that long-term cost that is always going to bite you in the bum, or not even like just in features wise, but just being end of life. Like, Mike Hammett is still bitter about some of the camera stuff being end of life.
yeah, the alternative products, you could say, the camera stuff, the access system, the solar
Yeah.
panels. Like, I'm sorry for anybody that installed Ubiquiti Solar, because that's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
always a, yeah, it's been dead for, it was alive for what, a year, maybe 2 at max.
Yeah, a
Like,
couple.
considering the capital investment you have to do to get the solar running, right? And then you lose. Oh, anyway, it's like, yeah, with Ubiquiti, it's always like trade-offs, right? The question is at which point is it worth the easy and fast and cheap wave versus, when is it going to bite you?
Mhm.
Someone needs to give them the traction book, because they are just all over the place. They have no focus. So many shiny objects.
Well, they also
Although-
have
Weren't
XGS Pond too.
Weren't they doing servers for a little bit?
Yeah, they
Were
tried
your
to do-
one-stop IT?
They got like a 6U rack on wheels you can buy too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
The wall-mounted full solution thing. You guys seen that?
Oh, yeah,
Anvil
the
or
wall.
whatever that was.
the Rhomba vacuum cleaner that goes to its base and comes back. I mean, they got that too, right?
I have not been following.
Don't give them ideas.
It would be
I
hilarious.
swear, someone posted that. I thought it was a joke.
They
though.
were, they were working on a self-driving car too, right?
Oh yeah. Well, everyone's doing that these days, right?
Yeah, everyone. Apple, Google. I
As
heard.
long as it has SFPs, Mike will be happy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you put SFPs on your. That is the nice. I think the 60L. What was that? The Airfiber 60.
The 60 HD does have an SFP port on it.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
PoE in. I was really surprised with the size of the thing. It's only about this big,
Mhm.
but it has all these little channels in it, like on the back, and I'm like, I can see water getting in there and freezing and cracking this thing in half. So I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
We'll see how
Well,
it goes.
could it be worse than the Cambium a snow shovel?
Hmm.
Because did you
No,
see that issue
Is
that
that,
guys ran
is that
into?
a real thing?
They
Yeah.
built the radio in such a way that snow accumulates on the front of it, right? Or something,
Yeah.
and it was just attenuating the signal until it dropped.
Yeah, so Chad Walks actually had this issue this last winter. I'll post a link of an image, but basically take a parabolic dish and cut it
It's like
cut it so that you just have like the curve, and
Okay.
then what you just do is you cut the top off of that curve, and then you have the feed horn here, and then this dish here. So it's really small, really light, builds like fast to deploy.
so it looks like a urinal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, it's urinal
All
on
right.
its side. Yeah, that's actually a really but with its default deployment, like that bottom curve is going to be gathering snow if you're up in the mountains where snow like falls straight down. Out on the plains where I was, snow falls sideways, like it never goes straight down. So that wouldn't be a problem for me. It never was, but for him, that was actually a big issue. Actually, for me, the new Mimosa C5X dishes that were super deep, they actually collected snow really bad. So, we'll see. It's a bummer. I think he ended up just spraying like there's a
It's like a
lubricant.
silicone spray that everything falls off of.
Yeah, it's that and
Never
Teflon
wet.
in a
Never
can.
wet.
yeah,
or,
never wet.
Never wet. Yeah.
Pam.
Yeah, I think that would have been the quicker and easier solution. Actually, my solution to him was just to mount it sideways or put a plastic bag on it, because black plastic bag, melt eventually. Keep everything off.
Yeah. Never
Oh.
wet's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Just put Magnum over it.
It probably would stretch enough. It probably would stretch.
Yeah.
Let's see. What other stuff has been oh yeah, so I don't think we've talked about it on the show yet. Wispstock.com. John Gill is the guy who's been running that show. And basically he just polls different companies' websites, and if they give if they're willing to share the information, you can see if there's something in stock or not on their website without having to go to like 5 different websites. And he's got it broken out by regions: Canada, Europe, South Africa, brands, and the search method is actually better and faster than I found out on a lot of different of the vendor sites. So it's a pretty slick little deal, and he has now, very useful for Ubiquiti products, he has EOL and early access notifications on various stuff. So that was his latest post. I saw about that today, and I was like, oh, hey, we should mention that because he's doing the Lord's work, helping guys find stuff. So I don't know. Have you ever used these like aggregation websites or something like that, Justin?
I have not. I just sent it to my team. It looks pretty good. We've been having a little bit of problems getting some Microtech stuff now.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we stockpiled quite a bit. So
when did you realize that it was going to, like, life was going to get really difficult and you needed to like just go stockpile stuff?
probably about 3 months ago, we started to see it slow down, and that's when we stocked up. For a while, we weren't seeing much of an issue with the Microtech stuff, but then started slowing down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I had a buddy who was like, I can't find 48 port switches anywhere. Like
CRS354s or whatever.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
dude, have you looked for these? And
Yeah.
there was actually, I was actually blown away. Double Radius didn't have any. I think Streakwave didn't have any, but LinkText had some. So so yeah, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Here you go, buddy.
I have some 4948s if anyone wants to buy them.
4948.
Cisco 4948s.
Oh my god.
Stopped using those and gone to the CRS354s recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, we only had one in my last network, which meant that I had two, one for testing, or one was a spare backup. But like, it was nice. Like, just boot it up. I could plug Ubiquiti stuff in it, and sometimes the radio, I wouldn't even need to like turn on the passive PoE. It would just auto negotiate up. It'd just be like, oh hey, it's a radio. Let's send power to it. That was nice. I don't know if that's in the standard, or if maybe Ubiquiti is starting to put some of the PoE negotiation stuff in. But it was all 5 AC gear. So it was the prisms, yeah, a bunch of those. So, and they all booted up, and I didn't have to do anything, which was nice.
You're talking about off the 354?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, you've told me before I should be able to leave that. Alex is our resident expert on almost everything, but definitely on the Microtech switching. And I used to be a big fan of like, just set the voltage and force it on and it'll work. Yeah. And he came behind me on a few configs and he's like, hey, you're gonna break stuff. This should work auto. Haven't you found that in most of the cases, Alex?
In most of the cases, auto works. It gets a little, at least on the older stuff, on longer distance cables, when you're really pushing the limits, it might do something a little funny, but for the most part, auto is the way to go. Less risk of burning something out.
And I figure if there's no chance of letting the magic smoke out, you're not having fun yet. So
you got to run hard or don't run at all. Let's see. I had actually one device give me some problems, but I replaced it with, and I think I had to set it to, oh, what's that?
Oh, well, you can't see it.
Yeah.
That looks Ruckus. Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, great stuff there.
Is that what you're putting in instead of the Cisco gear?
No, we're testing it out, looking at some of the Ruckus stuff. So that's actually really hard to get switch right now, along with the APs.
So if it's really hard to get, do you think you would even switch to it if you can't get it?
No, I mean, I totally expect the supply chain stuff to eventually iron itself out in a few
And
years.
that's more universally a problem. It's,
yeah.
For example, the PoE stuff is hard to come by, whether it's Microchip, Ubiquiti, Hewlett Packard, or Net, like it doesn't matter.
This is a 10 port, 2.5 gig PoE switch with 210 gigs, and it's passively cooled.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's got 10 ports on it.
Are you finding a lot of wireless access points that are doing 2.5?
The Ruckus stuff does. They have some of the product line does up to 5 gig on the copper port with PoE plus 90 watts.
That's a lot of power.
A lot of power. So I was running one of the, I think it's a R850 here at the house for a bit with the 5 gig. I was using the Microtech RJ, whatever the 6-speed one is, and 90 watt PoE here in the house, testing out that AP, and max throughput was typically a little bit less than what I would get through a Unify HD, but reliability and like signal strength everywhere was more consistent, I would say. So they're not going for like max speed throughput. They're going for, reliable signal everywhere on the Ruckus.
Yeah,
stuff.
the range and quality of the signal on Ruckus is definitely up there.
Yeah, it was 8x8 multi MIMO radio or something like that. Why it needs 90 watts of power.
I was going to say that sounds a lot like the Fortinet 831F, and it's not doing 90 watts, but it'll do 5 gig on its copper port.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's good. I've got a lot of older experience with Ruckus, and I had a lot of challenges with it probably 10 years or more ago. So glad to hear that they're doing a little bit better with that.
The DP dynamic pre-shared key, DPSK, I think is probably one of the most intriguing features that they have, where you can have one SSID and you can just give out many passwords for that one SSID.
Multiple passwords.
And whichever one you pick decides what VLAN that one person's going to be shoved into. So from like a campus perspective or a large community Wi-Fi project, you can have one SSID through the whole place, have all your things be trunk ports, and have people roam between them and just have the same password throughout the whole campus, community Wi-Fi kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it works with a lot of the IoT devices that don't work with the enterprise wireless stuff. So solves a lot of problems. But
Fortinet's got that capability also. I was always wondering, like, what is the actual limit? Because there's got to be some limit for number of passwords, right? And I didn't know if that was covered by standards or if every vendor kind of sets that themselves. But
I don't know what the upper limit is, but I don't feel like I'm going to probably run into that on a property. Because if it's like 1,000, I'm not going to have more than 1,000 units probably. And if I did run into that problem, I don't really think people would be roaming from one side of that property to another. So I might be able to split the domain up a little bit. I don't know.
I couldn't find any stated limits. So
it's also got a strong cloud component to it, and a lot of that stuff can be managed through the cloud. So there may not be a limit. I don't know.
Like, if you think about it, all of the magic is done by the controller, right? And like each individual AP is not going to have like maybe 100 clients that's already pushing it, right? Depends on how much throughput you need. So like, I don't think you would run on the individual AP limit, and the controller can do whatever. So
that's fair. You'll hit your client limit before you hit your password limit.
Yeah. What I thought was another intriguing aspect of it was the they have, I think it's Zigbee in them, in some of them, and then you can control that stuff with an API. So if you're trying to do like smart locks, smart thermostat, smart lights, stuff like that, you can kind of maybe do some integrations there if you were so inclined. I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be a third-party ecosystem that grows around that. So
That way, when the lights go out, you're completely without internet or a way out of the building.
yeah, the PoE, but you know,
The doors are locked, the lights are out, the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
yeah, they would not know what to do.
So
It's raining. Everything's dead.
yeah, it could be like you're in Tennessee right now, or is that Kentucky?
Of course, it's an MDU, so your cell phone signal doesn't work. You use Wi-Fi
Yeah.
calling, but the Wi-Fi is down. So
Yeah. Yes. Oh man.
So you were mentioning trunking everything back. So I was always told to not trunk ports if I didn't have to, because then the switch had to like do a broadcast discovery of where a MAC address was every time it saw a packet come through, or is that just like when the first time the packet came through and it would be fine afterwards?
That should be stored on the ARP table for a certain amount of time.
The MAC forwarding table. You
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, the ARP table. Yeah. Or
Oh,
MAC
L2
forwarding
FDB
FTP in the switch.
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as long as it's stored in the database, which my experience that sticks around
You
for
pretty much
quite a
have
while.
to trunk the AP port because all the SSIDs are going to have, I mean, all the passwords are going to have different VLAN associations with them. It's like doing the Unify and you have an SSID and you put a VLAN on it.
Mhm.
Each one of the SSIDs can have a separate VLAN. So you kind of have to do that. And since you don't know, I mean, obviously you could make an allow list of every VLAN that would be there, you know, if you wanted to do that, or you can just be like,
but at that point, you're still trunking, whether or
Yeah.
not you're allowing all the VLANs or not.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
I would make the case, like, even if you aren't using something like this, you should be trunking to all of your APs simply to segregate or separate the management interfaces from the actual client forwarding traffic interface.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Unless there's a dedicated management port.
And
yeah,
and actually,
who's
before we
running
go
a
too
separate
much,
Ethernet cable for that, Alex?
It's the
I
most
mean,
expensive install.
2 Ethernets to every spot. I mean,
maybe
Oh,
we
yeah,
should be
'cause you're doing
charitable.
link ag,
here.
right? On 2 of them.
Well, and need a spare, right?
Yeah.
So maybe 4.
let's just do fiber and then and a copper.
Yeah, do fiber and we'll DWDM to.
Yeah.
I actually prefer just to run DB9 for management. So
Maybe we should be charitable to some of our listeners who aren't as haven't played around with switching as much as we all have. Who wants to explain trunking versus other stuff? Jake, you got this maybe?
Oh, nose goes. I'm not going to be the one to describe it in the room.
I
full of
haven't heard
experts.
Tomas talk a whole lot, so let's get
Yeah.
him to do it here.
Yeah, the smartest guy in the room.
all right. So basically, layer 2, right? Normally, everything inside the single layer 2 domain can talk to each other, right? And so the VLANs serve as a way to separate the virtual networks, so split the L2 domains of multiple L2 domains. And so the point is now that you have a single cable and you want 2 separate L2 domains, so 2 separate split networks over a single cable, which is VLANing, right? So now we have to talk about how that works. So with VLANs, each port can be in technically 3 states, but really you want to use 2 states. And so those 2 states you want to do is either an access port, where a port is an access port, anything connected to that port is within a single VLAN, within a single L2 domain. If you have a trunk port, that means that frames coming in on that port have an additional encapsulated VLAN header, which tells the switch that this particular frame belongs to a particular VLAN. So that way you can actually have 2 switches connected to each other, tagging each individual frame with the appropriate VLAN, and then the other end knows which VLAN, which L2 domain that particular frame belongs to. And the third one you don't want to use is hybrid, which just screws everything up, where you have both tagged and untagged frames on the port, which just don't do it.
sometimes devices will require you, when you're doing management on the same cable, to do that on an untagged VLAN. It doesn't have the ability to say management's on a tagged VLAN. So that might be an exception where you break that rule, right?
That might be a device you throw in the trash.
Fair.
I think I've done it, like use hybrid ports, like just so I can have management as well as like okay, if this comes in untagged, this goes on to my like management VLAN. And otherwise like everything else is just stayed tagged. And that way I could just like pull a device out and plug my laptop in and see if there was like the port was bad. Without having to change VLANs or anything on my laptop because I couldn't. And I didn't trust any of my techs to do it as well. So that's a slight case, but yeah, having untagged ports on tagged ports is not a good plan. It's better to just separate all that out if you can.
So I'll start by admitting that I've done the same thing. Mostly for old school Ubiquiti APs, Unify APs, where before they gave that option in the controller, that was the only way to segregate their management out, was to tag or to use untagged. But what I've chased people around before more recently with is, in that scenario, your fail is right onto the management network. So if somebody does sneak in, unplug something and plug it into their laptop, now they're on your management network. And so from a security standpoint, which is always, I'm slightly paranoid, maybe more so than slightly, but that's always where I'm going to jump, is like, what did you just open by letting somebody jump onto your management network? With
You trust your
any
management
random
network?
I don't trust anything, but I'd like to think the management network is a little more secure than the one I let the users on.
Yeah.
Oh, there is many more issues. Even so, management, at least assumes the network is working, but there are cases when you can actually break the network by doing this. For example, and even MikroTik was guilty of this in the past. So imagine you have this port, which is a hybrid port, so it's accepting some untagged frames and injecting them into a VLAN. So suddenly, if you get a spanning tree BPDU that comes in, does that get encapsulated into the VLAN, which would be a violation of the STP protocol, right? Or even worse, what about LACP and all the discovery protocols? Sorry, LLDP, link local discovery protocol, right? So those should be forwarded and should not be encapsulated in a VLAN. What about the MikroTik discovery protocol? What about all the other link layer stuff which should never be encapsulated in a VLAN? You are introducing, depending on how the switch works and what it considers forwardable and non-forwardable frames, it can be a mess. And why I'm specifically saying it, because in the past, well, luckily MikroTik switch implementation is much better now. But in the past, it would actually be possible with MikroTik bridging, more specifically, to introduce BPDUs into VLANs, to introduce LLDP frames into VLANs, and stupid stuff that you really shouldn't do. It was possible, but yeah. So what you should do, maybe as a recommendation, is if you know that the port is not supposed to be receiving untagged frames, set it to tagged only. There are security options you can do. The other way around, if you know that the port is supposed to only be receiving untagged traffic, so it's an access port, it should never receive a tagged frame. So there are options for this. You just have to enable them. And the better you secure it and the better you specify what is the wanted versus the unwanted traffic, the safer and more stable the network, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So fun stuff. Moving on. Wispapalooza is October 3 through 6. Tickets are going up. I think August 1st. Today was the last day you could get early access tickets, or maybe it was yesterday. And who all's going to be going for that?
I haven't started the plan yet, but I do want to go. So
yeah, I would like to go. I don't know if I will. It would be really cool. It's just kind of, it's another thing, and it's in October. It's just one thing after another. So maybe I'll do it probably.
I will be there.
I'm not a fan of Vegas. and like how much noise it is.
I heard they were like 60 days from running out of water or something like that.
Oh, I think that might not be as bad of a problem for them right now, especially after this weekend.
What happened?
They had some like major flooding. I guess Bali's got like
They were out of water and then they got too much.
they got feet and feet of water.
Hopefully they captured it all somewhere.
Yeah. Hopefully. No, there's some pretty bad water issues. I thought that there was some other stuff happening that they were figuring out on that, but I haven't followed it because I'm not in that portion of the country anymore. Slack is going from a 10K message limit to a 90-day messages limit. Once again, has been inspiring the conversation of where the Brothers Wisp will be hanging out. If you have commentary, share it now or shoot us an email at thebrotherswisp@gmail.com. So what do you guys think? I've always thought the 10,000 message and then they store it for all of eternity I kind of liked it for the brothers because like it made it so that guys could come in and just post a question and not worry about like looking through years and years and years of like data and resources. And Slack has a good search thing, so that's nice. But even then, like, I don't know.
Things change. I mean, a couple years ago we weren't using the same hardware in the same way. So, I mean, for me, it's kind of like a window in time that we have that we're looking back. And I don't know if we need to look back much further. There are some things that I have wanted to reference before. And if I see something like that, I just save it somewhere. So.
Yeah, I have a massive notebook of like, hey, this is good things people have said. And reference book there, which is really nice. I don't know. What about you, Jake?
I don't know. I've enjoyed the idea of knowing with a 10,000 message limit, the idea being you could always pay to unlock your history. And so having that ability to go peer through that window in time, even if it was expensive, was kind of a nice thing to know. But Justin, I totally see your point. And
I don't think that's changed, though. I don't think they're getting rid of the history.
They're not going to get rid of it. It's just a 90-day lock.
You can only see stuff that's 90 days old versus 10,000 messages old.
Well, that's still, I mean, it still gives the history. I think it's a valid point that if you're having a technical discussion about how to implement something going back 5 years, you would do it a completely different way. So I agree with you there. I feel like that starts to lose value pretty quickly in a high-tech environment. So
I would argue like networking is not a fast-moving environment, right? Like if you're talking about topologies, designs, or like IPv6 migration guides and all of that, like that's probably as valid as it was 5 years ago, right? Sure, I was thinking different hardware, but
I was thinking just like think through how much MikroTik has changed in the last 5 years.
Like from a syntax perspective, definitely, right? But from an architecture perspective or a solution designer perspective, right? Yeah, how you achieve a certain outcome is definitely changed, but the design of that outcome, or like I say, IPv6 migration guides, best practices, all of that, right?
There's analytics I'm pulling up for how much we posted. So
yeah, I guess for me it was more along the lines of like a guy doesn't have to like look through 3 different versions of IPv6 migration to like hunt down his particular question. Like, okay, yeah, this one isn't exactly applied to me, but and like being able to piece it together. Now, yeah, that is a great problem solving skill that I think guys like it's good for you to try to have, and head off. And like I definitely spend an inordinate amount of time every time I go and ask a question. Like, oh, hey, this thing, have I actually like looked at whatever this thing was? And sometimes I solve my own problem by like going through and making certain that exactly every aspect has been asked of my question before I ask the group. But I don't know if that's like, it's definitely, that's a, having a long history is a pretty big burden. And I personally would never be able to never feel comfortable posting until I had read through a lot of it, at least a few years ago. At least personally for me, like.
Well, speaking of that, we have on average between 80 and 75 people, active members, and people on Slack, and then on average a high of 53 active people posting with an average of about 40. It's about 40 really active people on there right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done 2,500 messages in the last 30 days.
So that's going to hurt us a lot more than it would be a larger community. Larger communities may actually benefit a lot from this change.
I think it was a very easy decision for Slack, right? They have all the data, they have all the analytics. They just looked at, what's more beneficial for Slack. Like, where are we going to sell more Slack Pro plans? It's like super easy from a business perspective, right? So yeah, you can see it's hurting us. And like, we are a sizable community, 130 people. I think we're like the upper percentage of size as in teams, right? So imagine now all the small teams, which with the 75K messages, they might have 2 years of history, right? And now, so they're losing all of that. So I think it was like very easy business decision for Slack. Like, this is going to make us more money. Let's do it.
There's a total of 216,000 messages in the community.
So that just shows you, right? We are losing access to so now we are keeping 20,000 versus 75,000, right? Because you said like 7,000 a month. So it's just business decisions.
It was 2,500 a month right now.
So we'll be at 7,500 instead of 10,000. So we're losing about a month, maybe a month and a half.
Yeah.
Worth of messages. We
just got to get more active.
Yeah.
There's a lot of there's also a lot of private messages too. So this particular month in particular, in July, had increased from like maybe 5% private messages to over 35%. So some people are communicating privately somewhere. Well, interesting.
I wonder, I guess it would be by message, and so like a group message, like 5 people, it wouldn't be 5. If each time you sent a message, it wouldn't be to 5 different people. Probably wouldn't count like that.
Hopefully they're not counting them like cell carriers count SMS.
Well, they count SMS in and out too. That's the worst. It's like, God. So,
Tomas, that's a super interesting to frame that whole question as a non-technical question and as a purely business question. Any modification. Well, yeah, but so it's super easy to say statistically across their entire customer base, this has to work out better for them.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
If you're anything like an average customer of Slack, they're clearly taking some of your retention away or access to retention.
I would say most of it.
Yeah. That's a fair way to frame it.
Yeah, and any group smaller than us is by far going to be dropping a lot of their messages. I mean, I know I'm in some Slack groups where messages go back years because there's not that much action happening.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I can see it, like how this happened is, Slack execs thought, how can we increase our profit margin? And some analyst guy came, oh yeah, what about we change the retention? And
Slack was recently bought, wasn't it?
Yeah, Salesforce.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like you can clearly see like where this is coming from. It's all business.
Yeah.
So, but then you go back to, all right, well, do we want to change? I mean, there's a lot of guys using Discord nowadays. How many of you guys have a Discord client installed?
I have it installed, but that whole thing is like gaming thing for me. It's like a different.
Yeah, 2 very different worlds.
Tool for me, like different world. I install Discord on my gaming PC, but not on my work laptop kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, sure, I could.
Well,
Yeah.
not just that, but Discord has been under a lot of controversy lately as well. Like, considering the massive and honestly non-technical user base of Discord, it is mostly gamers, which, let's face it, more technically savvy than your grandma, but not really. Especially like seeing most of the gamer
they're technically
demographic these days is like 15 and younger, right? If you look at the demographics of Fortnite or Minecraft or anything like
Roblox.
yeah, Roblox, there you go. So Discord has been under a lot of scrutiny lately for, first of all, security breaches. There was some research which showed that by size, 70% of the content hosted on the Discord CDN has some kind of malware in it, which is like mind-boggling numbers.
Wow.
Like, so Discord has, and the botting issue is horrendous. And like, you can see this, like, it's a massive grouping of various communities of non-technical people. So there has been a lot of shady stuff going on.
They make it real easy to do bots on there, though. It's not like they discourage that at all. So
No,
not
they,
just
they
that, like
encourage it.
their moderation policies are not quite the best or transparent. Like I said, there is no content scanning. There is no, like, they have been working on it. But if you look at, like, Discord has had quite a few controversies in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, and then like user privacy recording of info and such has been a pretty big controversy as well for them too. Like they track a lot of stuff.
has anyone used Matrix or any of that stuff?
Was
No.
it Matrix? No, Mattermost was where we were thinking about going a few years ago back. Wasn't that? Inside
Yeah,
recall?
That was one.
There's Rocket Chat, which has been popular lately as well.
Matrix.org is an interesting decentralized thing, I believe.
You know
Where you
what?
can-
We should just all go back to IRC.
Well,
There you
Matrix
go.
is essentially a federated system like IRC was, where
Yeah, I'm
everyone
sorry,
can have
I'm
their own
sorry.
servers and you can communicate with each other and all that. And it has a lot of integrations with other standards. You can pull information from other chat clients in there. You can interface with like iMessage, I believe, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's like a multi-communication hub, like middleware essentially. So
Then yeah, Zach was talking about this because he knows
Yeah.
he like follows all of this stuff, and every time we have the 10K conversation, he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
there's this one, and this one has these cool features," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is
guy at work
what-"
is really into it too.
Yeah.
I have not really looked at it a whole lot.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's funny seeing him talk because then I'm like, this is how I sound like to somebody who doesn't care about technology or networking. It's like this is something I don't care about, but it's definitely something I need to be important and care
Yeah.
about. So yeah, if you guys, if the community at large has comments, questions, thoughts, feel free to shoot us a message and it will be brought into the consideration.
Probably the worst part of like platforming like this, it's just a holy war at some point, right? Everybody has their preference, and like you're never gonna satisfy everyone. And
we
Yeah.
never even discussed MS Teams. Come on.
I was waiting for teams to come up.
I think we had our discussion right there.
Well, the second you move to something, even if we find something that's free today, doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. Slack worked well at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the same issue. Now that pricing is changing. And what's to say we don't, do a big lift, get everybody on board, we move to Teams, and then all of a sudden they want to charge an arm and a leg.
Yeah,
We're
I
having the
think if we're going to
conversation
move,
all
we're going to
over
have to
again.
move this up on that's in our full control, like Mattermost or something like that. So
I think there's an obvious solution you're not seeing here, gentlemen. We just write
Disband.
our own platform.
Disband.
We just write our own platform.
How did I
You
not
guys
think
went-
of that?
We went opposite directions with that.
Write our own platform. Well, Tomas, what do you have? What do you have in mind, Mr. Software Dev Guy?
I have my hands full already. This is onto somebody else. Sorry.
You just volunteered for it. I heard.
Yeah.
It felt like volunteering.
Yeah, that's
That was
volunteering.
your idea.
so-
You volunteered for it. Don't speak up unless you want to be.
By the way, if you whatever you write has to be written in like some sort of scripting language that networking guys are going to know, because we have to be able to maintain this.
I think we should just write it in TCL, tickle, right?
I was gonna say RouterOS scripting language, but then we can't do any floating point math. So
No, it
Writing
has
it-
to.
Writing a chat platform with TCL is like getting doomed to run on a microtik.
Well, but you see, there is a plan here. You can run Tickle on Cisco, right? So think about it. This would be a worldwide distributed chat platform running on all of ours hardware. Like, come on.
well, now that we can do Docker on Microtech, I mean,
There you
come
go.
on, let's just do that. We'll have a
We're worried
confederate.
about
Everyone who joins
we're-
will have a confederated matrix Docker client. We'll join them all together.
we're
What
stripping
could
out
go
different VLANs that can run on the port. But that's fine. We'll run the chat product on it.
Yeah.
So this all comes from way back in the day. I had a horrible idea. You know how there are
Which
these...
one?
All right. Well, this one specifically. So you know, like how there are hundreds of thousands of opened, unsecure MySQL instances around the internet. That's a free, highly
Unlimited
distributed
storage.
database around the world. Like, yeah, it's extremely highly redundant. It's extremely geolocated, right? So just like free real estate
Sounds like cockroach DB to me. We just need to
running on somebody else's
Co-op it.
hardware, but,
someone
you
else's
just need a-
hardware, someone else's database.
Yeah, well,
You just need a central control plane that can encrypt and store the data across all the different instances.
that's what I
And you've
mean,
got-
right?
Yeah.
There's terabytes and terabytes of publicly accessible, unsecured MySQL instances. Like, why not use it, right?
Now, if you add a tier, you can have a paid tier, so we can figure out the performance of each instance, and then have a paid tier to this decentralized database, so that you can have faster access to the network.
And you don't care if somebody secures their database. There are hundreds of thousands of others, right? So, I mean, the data is encrypted.
Okay,
And
so write
moving
in
on.
copies.
Moving
Where do we
on.
keep the parity bits?
Oh my god.
We store that on a different platform entirely. We find all the MS SQL servers that are unsecured. We store it there.
Yeah, and then
And then the NoSQL
the
servers.
Postgres and all of
those.
that. Yeah.
I know.
Redis.
We'll
we just got to use
we
Redis
figure-
too, right? Get that in
See,
there.
and suddenly it's just a worldwide scalable, size unlimited, worldwide multi-DB platform. There you
Sounds
go.
like a business plan you're coming up with.
Yeah, for
Now you
free.
just-
I mean, you have no OPEX, right? Like, it's obvious.
You just have to tag where it's running in the world and what provider it's running with. That way you can figure out your different regions to store your data in.
Yeah.
And then just leave it up to the users to keep their data in more than one region for, high
Yeah.
availability.
There,
Yeah.
there you go. Perfect business case. Just like a chat platform written on TCL running on everybody's Cisco iOS.
Somehow, like I've
Maybe
been dying
less
to let's.
legal?
Hold on, the FBI is calling me. Hold on. Let me get this.
It's oh my goodness, yeah. It would be so. There's actually was a like wet file sharing hosting service that I saw and was interacted with for a little bit. They you gave them some amount of storage on your computer, and then that storage you got from other people. So if you gave them 5, you got 3 back.
There's a
And-
crypto thing for this called storage, STORJ, which
Yeah.
essentially is an S3 compatibility layer that you can just dump buckets into, and it's distributed like that.
Okay, so another terrible idea. It seems.
No, there you go. No, this is good. Like, now we are adding crypto to our products. It's good.
Actually,
I mean,
we
if
don't
it
need
wasn't
crypto, we need
complicated enough.
Bitcoin.
Now we just need a way to include NFTs, and we are like all in, man.
Come on, Justin. We're gonna
When you-
simplify it with the blockchain.
you get the when you
Oh,
ask for a
God.
backup of your information, it comes to you on a CD which has an NFT of your data on it.
There you
Wow.
go.
So it's a
Yeah, I like this. We're
Yeah.
getting further. All right, this is a very productive business session, guys.
who's taking notes?
The
Don't
FBI.
mind me just writing patents and copyrights for all of this.
Uh,
All right, so now that I have gotten us completely off track,
off track. Yeah, Matrix or yeah.
Mastodon is one too, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
what the Truth Network or whatever? We can just
just go,
It's
everybody
working
get
well, right?
Truth Social.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's just the software that they use is called Mastodon, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with that,
that
other
didn't.
crap.
Yeah, that didn't die out either.
Yeah.
Mastodons.
But, yeah.
How are you powering your guys' gear in your towers?
Typically
Or
with
in your-
electricity.
So
Sometimes with the
Series
sun,
connected
you know.
potatoes.
so this comes from
No Tom Smith here to talk about that.
there's a bunch of people I've been seeing on the forums and in the Slack group asking about what what options people have now that they can't get the Edge Power 12 or 48, Edge Power 48 or whatever it is, named from Ubiquiti. Apparently getting them is very difficult.
Is
My
that
response-
a supply chain issue, or did they abandon it?
Or a Ubiquiti issue.
Well, it could be all three, and we'll never know because they never tell us anything. But guys need to power their 24, 48 volt gear now, and so kind of up the creek. I've always liked ICT, and they've been pretty available. There's only been once when I was like delayed 2-3 months for equipment. ICT-power.com is where I.
So what are you buying with that? How are you setting that up when you buy that?
So the gear that we got is basically you get a chassis that has like modular. It's a modular chassis, and so you can throw in whatever you want. And what we would do is 3 AC to 48 volt modules, 2 to be running equipment, and then 1 is a hot spare. And so we could do A and B, and then the hot spare can jump in for either or through the chassis. And then the 4th slot in the modular slot would be a circuit breaker. So we could kill power to either the batteries or downstream as well. It would just do downstream. And then it had built-in battery maintenance and stuff, so I could just plug in my batteries into that, plug in 120 or 240 AC, whichever way you wanted to go with that. And then I'll have a link for it. So it was really cool, really beautiful, kind of expensive in comparison. Here with Mike, we've been using L-Tech gear, and it works fine. The only issue we had with it was that if you pour water on it, it catches fire. So if your AC unit pops or decides to spring a leak and leaks on top of your network gear rack, that'll kill it. But other than that, it was great. So
the crux of what you're getting at is how do you get the DC power input to your devices, not what PoE options are available or anything like that. Just how do you get the raw DC power?
Yeah. How do you get your raw DC?
And then how do you get the DC power supplies for your microtecs? Because those are hard to get to right now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, are we solving the rooftop problem, the hilltop problem, or the in the office problem?
Well, it kind of depends on where you're at, because like if you're in the office, you just run everything off of AC, right?
Well, you still have DC conversion somewhere along the way.
Stuff
Generally,
that
everything
does
has
some
power
power, UPS power backup stuff, right?
Yeah. So and usually you go DC just because with batteries, you can just, everything just stays 1 voltage and you aren't converting up and down other than once you get onto the circuit board. And in circuit board, it's going to convert no matter what. So like 48 volts is really popular right now because most of the PoE standards are that, and telecom was all 48 volt stuff, and it's a little bit higher voltage, and so you can go further you have further runs you can do for guys. But Ubiquiti 24 volt is, there's a lot of 24 volt stuff out there as well. And the nice thing about that is you only need two 12 volt batteries strung together to power gear with it. So it's definitely cheaper. Whereas 48, you have to either up convert from your batteries and down convert to your batteries, or have 4 batteries at a minimum to have 48 volts. So a lot of conversation there. I don't know. What are you guys doing, Alex, in the office?
So full circle to derail the conversation entirely. Justin mentioned some of the stuff that has 90-watt power input. I'm thinking on one hand, like, at what point do we just have one cable that goes into the laptop that powers the device, probably your external display, and that's it. Just
Have you not used the
you got your
MacBook
Ethernet,
Pro
you got your
recently
power.
with USB-C?
Oh yeah,
That's everything. Power,
But
Ethernet.
But you're not
Video.
using the PoE to power the. It'd be really cool if you just
They
went.
have
one-
PoE to you. Oh, I think it was PoE Texas or whatever. Those guys, they have a.
Does it do power delivery? 90
they do-
watts?
Not 90. They have PoE to 30-watt power delivery. I think.
Yeah,
That's.
thinking
I haven't
90
really
watts
looked at
is-
it. There might be. 90 watts is kind of a lot for Ethernet. I think maybe.
Yeah, but that goes right into your hub on your desk. Plug that into your laptop, and then you've got power and Ethernet. You power your display, all your devices.
Yeah, isn't
And
Cat
then
6
my
a
next
higher
thought
gauge?
immediately from there is you're doing 90 watts to every computer. Suddenly your 48 port switch is really struggling to deliver the power. And then we start to talk about things like, you've
Magic
got your
smoke.
LED lighting that's all PoE now. So at some
Now
point,
we are back to
the whole
Ubiquiti.
building is PoE.
Yeah. Somebody bought a
whole
lot of
building-
Ubiquiti back in the day.
Right.
They
But
were
now the whole
visionaries.
building's PoE, right? And at 90 watts a port, you're starting to talk like, do they even make a switch that does that many watts? I don't know of
yeah.
any switch beyond like 1K, right? Unless you're in the
Arista-
chassis platform.
Arista has a platform that I don't know if I could talk about the client, but they have a 48 port PoE multi-gig up to 5, I think it's up to 10 maybe gigs per port, plus a couple of other ports on the end. I'd have to get the exact model, but that's an interesting platform, the Arista stuff.
Ally
Even
had one too, I think.
even HP, which is now Aruba, right? But even the old like 56 or XX platforms, like they could do 96 gig PoE ports already, right? And so like that's already like 4 kilowatt of power right there. So like
Wow, power in one switch.
yeah, so it would have 4 PSUs, each PSU being 1 kilowatt. So altogether 4 kilowatt, and then depending on of course, if a PSU fail, it would take down a line card worth of PoE. So, and like you could specify priorities, like in case of failure, which PoE line card, of course, would lose the PoE power and all that. And this is like 10 years old technology at this point, like the 5612 HP chassis are super old.
The Arista 720 XP has 5 gig, up to 5 gigabit per port, and it's 60 watt, not 90. So
to ruin the
but it has
conversation,
100 gig ports on it too. So
to ruin the conversation, the edge power that you were talking about being discontinued, are we sure they didn't just rebrand it as a 54 volt power supply? Because those are in stock, and they've got a bunch of new 54 volt SKUs.
Okay.
But
I wonder if
you
that's
can
what guys are running into.
you can normally get a 48 volt device to power up on 54, and
Oh yeah, I mean
it'll probably be fine.
Well, and depending on how far you're running it, it might not be 54 by the time it hits the device.
It'd be very
Exactly.
unlikely.
To whoever brought up the 48 volt over long distance comment, that they might have just switched. I would love to buy some of these switches though, and play with those, but I think they just changed the name of the product they were already building. So they're all still in the Edge Power line and in
Okay.
stock, oddly enough.
On the Ubiquiti website.
Yeah, because we already talked
Mhm.
about what they did to all their distributors.
But it looks like those only go up to 150 watts.
Yes.
So I'm only going to be able to power a couple laptops off that.
Well, it depends. I'm pretty sure my Air will run just fine on like 20 watts. So
Well, and what you just have to do is swap around who's getting power at certain times.
That's
It
true.
has a battery,
Wait.
right?
Yeah.
We're having network switch brownouts now, rolling brownouts.
Well, so
Get
now
power,
you need
all the odd ports get a power for today. All the even ones get power tomorrow.
no. Now you need software to manage your battery fleet and turn on and off depending on demand and battery level across your fleet, and you know.
Is it first in,
Is
first
this a
out?
third-
Because I'll just show up to the office early so I get power.
Is this a third product coming from you, Tomas? Are we going to expect some battery?
He's already tapped out with the
Building-wide.
chat software he's gonna write for us.
Yeah, man.
Okay,
like,
fourth-
come on.
Fourth
I have
product.
I have months of TCL to write. Come on. But to
Building
get
wide
back-
battery management.
I'm sure you're just tickled to do it too.
God, what have I brought onto myself?
Are you going to have slash commands in your chat platform? Power up my port.
Yeah, chat ops, man. Okay, come on. Yeah, more. Yeah. All right,
Really
chat
make it
ops.
fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So how we used to do this back in the day when I used to run the ISP. So we had micro pops, right? So we didn't need that much power per pop. But yeah, so we would run everything on 24 battery backup. So you would have the standard, AC/DC PSU, which also had battery in. So it was a battery MCU as well as a AC/DC PSU, which was super cheap. You just hooked up, a couple of batteries to that. And so that would be basically, out of that would be our main 24 volt bus. And onto this, we would actually use, I've talked many times about these, they're called tiny controllers, and they would measure the incoming AC, like voltage, amperage, and calculate the wattage. And on the DC side, it would also measure the voltage and amperage, right? And you could also turn on and off the DC. So, and that entire box, so this would be our base tower box, or, if the micropop was in somebody's, house, then, this would be in the attic box. And like that was super successful. So like, if you are building many micropop boxes, at some point it's just cheaper and faster to do it yourself with off-the-shelf hardware. You don't have to develop anything custom,
Mhm.
right? But like, it's basic electricity, right? So I don't really think you need a fancy solution for this. Like, again, different if you need to power 2 kilowatts up a 100-meter tower, very different. But like, realistically, how many of us need to do that?
Yeah, I use Tycon for my micro pops, and not that I was particularly happy with it, but it worked and it was simple and just plug it in.
Is that like an MPTT solar thing that you have batteries plugged into? Yeah, we've done that a few times, and instead of doing solar, we just get a 54 volt power supply and plug it in where the solar panels would be. So
Mhm.
it's a constant voltage feed. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
You
a
don't
really
even-
easy way of doing that. Making a solar grid tied. So
You don't even need the
MPPT.
solar stuff. Like, you can get, like I mentioned, a PSU which has a built-in battery lead, and it's a PSU with an included BMU battery management unit, and those are like super cheap.
I haven't seen anything like that.
Do you have some products or something, or
Yeah.
some model numbers for that you could maybe we can get the show notes that, because I've been looking for stuff like that. I've found some. Meanwhile has some.
Meanwhile has a bunch of it. Definitely.
Has a bunch of stuff. They typically tap out at 240 watts or so for some of their stuff, or 480 watts.
But
So
honestly, is that not enough?
it's
Like for a micropop?
it depends on what you're doing, what kind of radios you have. So if you have a bunch of cycloos, no, it's not quite enough. But if you have a bunch of Ubiquiti,
Suppose.
maybe it is. So it just depends on what you're doing,
Yeah. Like,
how
I
much
agree.
power you need. Most of our typical pops are 500 watts. So we're looking at that.
Yeah,
that
like we
range.
were nowhere near that power utilization. I think
Yeah.
our normal micropop was like 80 watts. That's it, right? So yeah, that's a very different level at that point.
Yeah. No, for the ICT stuff, I those were all like 1200 watt pops or more. Those were a lot like fiber and like where I have a bazillion radios and stuff and
Yeah.
a bunch of different stuff happening and like a server sitting in the background doing other stuff as well. So yeah, that was not ICT is not a micro pop friendly.
Well,
because
then again, like it's basic electricity. So get like 4 of these 500 PSUs and you have redundancy suddenly. You just connect them all and in parallel and there you go. Sure, you need a couple of components to handle the power switching and everything else. But like, again, any decently skilled electrician can make this for you.
True that.
I'm not saying this is the right solution for everyone, right? I'm just saying
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a super high-tech solution. Like
Something-
this is electricity.
Something else that we've been doing is when we buy these like off the shelf APC or cyber power UPSs, rack mount or otherwise, they have those 12-volt SLAs inside of them. Those go bad after about 3 years, so we'll take them out and we'll buy. There's a couple drop-in LiPo replacements, lithium iron phosphate batteries that you can get on Amazon. There's like at least 3 or 4 different manufacturers. They're about $100 for one of those batteries, but they're supposed to last 3,000 cycles instead of 300 that you typically get out of one of those other batteries. So you're looking at upfront cost a little bit higher, first battery replacement, but it's going to last 10 years if you don't take any catastrophic lightning or power issues there. So
You have
The other-
you have gel batteries today as well, which have amazing capacity and lifetime, like deep cycle gel batteries. Like there's tons of options today.
The other thing to consider in some of that, though, anything that's in a lead chemistry, you're going to typically cap out at 50% depth of discharge before you damage the battery. Where when you're looking at an LFP, you can take it all the way down.
Yeah.
So
More
it'll go
runtime
to
capacity.
significantly more because you can get all the way down to right under 10 volts on an LFP battery. So your voltage range is quite a bit different. Lots more capacity.
The problem is when you put it into an APC that's expecting lead acid batteries, they may the charge doesn't always necessarily get it charged fully to what the
No, it should take it
batteries want.
to you should take it to 13.8 instead of 14.4, which is fine. It won't hurt the battery.
Yep.
I took on I don't know if anybody else did these like weird at-home COVID projects where they were at home anyway. So why not learn a new thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started playing with batteries. So I love Tomas, your take on it's just simple electricity because I knew nothing about it when I got started. And I've done some unintentional welding, but I've also played with some fairly large, some fairly large capacity battery packs. So not, hey, are those 18650s in there, or are they something smaller?
18650s on a Raspberry Pi. This is a 3, I believe.
Very cool.
This was my home assistant setup for a bit.
So I have plans for an LFP 100 amp hour 12 volt battery that I think I can build a energy efficient enough home network to carry a day or two on the battery. And I'm not going to do anything fancy. I'm just going to plug in a power supply and keep it charged. And when the power goes out, my Wi-Fi stays up. So that's kind of my new power outage goal.
One of our friends, they bought a Tesla Model S battery pack that was a 5 kilowatt battery pack, and they buried it at the bottom of the cell phone or one of their towers in the mountains. They buried the pack, and with all the electrical components to make it a system for a UPS essentially. It's pretty cost effective, kind of cool. 5 kilowatt storage is a lot, so still running.
Lithium ion can be like super efficient, super cool, and super cheap considering how lithium ion prices
and super on fire.
Well, there's that. But
lithium iron phosphate's a little less of the fire.
That is, that's why I mentioned.
And
those
lithium
batteries.
polymer is a much more fire. How much fire do you want? It's just
Fire good.
So yeah, Justin, if I end up with something that feels repeatable, I'll shoot you notes.
All right, that sounds good.
Well, seeing as we're talking about ways of getting ourselves offed in horrible ways, last month, July 1st, was 988 became the USA National Suicide Hotline. So if you do telephone, make certain that you do that. I have a couple notes there. There used to be a phone number that was like the national one that wasn't a 3-digit code, and I have that saved in my phone just for, in case you needed that for somebody. So keep that in mind. Definitely we've it's fun and it's nice to hang out with everybody, but one of those sobering things, like make certain that your network takes care of it, because a lot of us handle VoIP and such like that. And B, make certain you keep that in mind in case you encounter somebody needing that. So it wasn't bad. I think for us, it was just a turn the switch on in Metaswitch, because we're supported. Justin, did you have to do anything special for that?
We don't try to sell VoIP at all. We've pushed that off to third parties as much as possible. So no.
I like you a lot. I wish we'd just done that. You guys, Jack, Alex, you guys don't do VoIP stuff, right? You just set it up. You don't have to.
They do.
We do.
We do a ton. Hey, Alex, how are we doing on that?
They're one of the third parties that we've pushed some of it to. So
then, how bad is it to turn on 988 for people?
That is an excellent question. It depends on what platform you're using and how it's all architected, I imagine.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are lots of different ways to connect your phones into different PBXs that dial out to different SIP trunks and whatnot. Whether or not your phone's connection supports that dial plan or not, or how hard it is to set up that dial plan, I can't speak to that. Everybody's got a different platform.
Okay.
Oh, and Alex, we're sure it's just one line in dialplan.conf.
Luckily for me,
it must be that easy, right?
Yeah.
Just set it up as an extension, right? And then forward.
There you go.
Do the number.
I don't know.
Mike turned it on. I was talking to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just did that a week or two ago," and it was just boop boop.
Did he test it out?
Well, you just have to decide who at your organization you want to take those calls, and then you just give them the extension. You see,
directed all the way.
The voicemail box. Anyways,
that's a dark take, Justin.
Thank you for calling this. It's very important to us.
Please leave your message after the beep.
To you on Monday at office hours of 9 to 4:30. Do you guys have that back over there on the other side of the pond, Thomas?
I honestly don't know.
I think suicide's a worldwide issue.
Well, yes, suicide. It's the hotline.
Yeah, but it's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, not the international. So I imagine your mileage may vary in other.
No, yeah, there are phone lines for like home abuse, emergency line, and yes, we say it in the emergency line and stuff like that. I honestly don't know the numbers. I do not think they are 3-digit numbers, which, like, thinking about it, they really should be. Honestly, I don't know how the ecosystem works.
I imagine if we don't know about the number, then the amount of people trying to dial it might be slim. I don't know that you would do your research before you're in a situation, but certainly having a 3-digit number that starts to go out at some point is better than not doing anything.
Yeah.
Everybody knows 911. You learn from a young age, but they aren't teaching 988 that I know of.
So for us,
it's new. It's new, right? Gotta give them time.
Like across Europe, there's 112, which is like a number for everything. So when you call, I suppose you guys call 911 for like medical as well and everything.
Yeah.
Is it like 0 for operator?
No, so 112 is just like you get connected
Emergency?
to a dispatch person. Yeah, it's a
Oh.
general emergency. You get connected to a dispatch person, and like they're supposed to be trained and know, like, okay, do I need to connect you to police, to healthcare services, to something else? So I would imagine like, and this is a number across entire EU, right? So it's EU, European Union wide, and yeah.
At what point does somebody say this should be the same worldwide?
It should be.
Right.
It really should be, right?
I shouldn't find myself in Europe trying to dial 911 when I need
That's
help,
not gonna
only to
work,
realize
sorry.
it's a different number.
Yeah.
I think when the United States, we went with 911 because it's very difficult to dial to accidentally dial. And then like Great Britain, I think they were like 999. Is like because then it's really easy to dial and really fast was their reasoning. I think it's Great Britain. Or at least is the story I heard for a while. I don't know if they're still on the EU standard or if they ever got onto the EU standard.
Oh, they were for a while. What's happening there now? It's a mess. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Britain's a mess right now.
So you're 112. It's interesting. I mean, it's probably just, you know, we probably both came up with the numbers around the same time, and it's just nobody ever thought, oh yeah, we should all be on the same one.
Actually, I think like 991 is much older than 112 because 112 came, you know, as EU unification started, which is, you know, much later than.
It's probably rotary phone based too, to a certain extent, right? Because I mean, you didn't have the touch tone pad.
Right.
911's been the thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
The other interesting thing is Canada and US tend to share a lot of infrastructure, but apparently 988 isn't supported in Canada. In Canada, you have to decide first how old you are, and if you're an adult, you dial 741-741, but if you're a youth, then you dial 686868.
Oh, that
makes sense.
Does it?
3
I
times.
thought Canada was pretty up and up on making sense of things, but I'm questioning this decision.
Like, I guess they were, and 3 times, 1 digit off from like actually being memorable by kids.
I already forgot what you said, so
Almost
That
nice.
happens to me a lot. It's fine.
Almost nice.
7. Wow, that's interesting. Well, I guess they aren't going to get misdialed very. But and
Can you imagine though? I'm sorry, this is the suicide line for adults. You need to call the suicide line for children.
Like,
you sound a little old for this call, so we need to call a different number.
let me forward you.
And what was your birthday exactly? We want to see if you've recently become an adult.
Yeah. I'm certain that that's not a problem. Like, it's government. One would hope that it wouldn't be a problem, but I almost guarantee you it would be. Well, that's I was hoping to be like, hey, feel better, but that was just depressing now. Pay attention. All right. Well,
It's all
cool.
Justin's fault. He started.
sorry. I'm trying not
Yeah.
to take an even darker take.
Oh, well,
I just think they're
whatever.
biting his lip.
Probably it's about time to stick a fork in it, unless one of you guys has something else you wanted to bring up today.
I think I derailed the cast sufficiently already. So
Pretty good. All right. Well, Justin, since we'll do first in, last out. Justin, how should people out on the internet reach you?
The little brother Slack is probably the best way. I'm very active on there. I do have a blog. It's dynstatic.net, I think. I have a little bit on there. I haven't updated it in a long time, but I have a contact form on there that might get to me. Maybe.
I guess I was next. Actually, by how we were doing it. So Tommy, you can shoot me an email at tommy@lostcreek.tech. Little Brother Slack. I'm also Tommy3 on the Mimosa forums. 3 or 5, something like that. I don't remember. Lost Creek.tech has all my fun stuff. So, and then I believe we had Thomas was next, right before me. How should people reach you out there?
For me, it's easy. Just unimus.net. And yeah, there's live chat. Just ask for me. I'm there.
I thought you weren't done with that yet. The chat software.
Really? What do you think I have been doing for the past hour?
I was
Come on, man.
Live chat tickle implementation.
Go. Give me some.
Not go, but go.
Alex, how should people on the internet reach you?
And you don't know it's running on your router already.
Oh.
Somebody should have patched.
It's
That's
fine.
why
We
he
keep
wrote-
our user database in the decentralized SQL instance, globally distributed.
Yeah.
I'm at madrone.tech or in the brother Slack.
And then,
Jake?
yeah, what about you, Jake?
Same thing. Jake at madrone.tech or on the brother Slack.
Speaking of which, go to patreon.com/the brothers WISP. There's a link down below here. You can go there, throw us a couple bones. I think it's $8 a month, and you can support us for making podcast stuff, buying mics again because Tommy couldn't figure out that his mic was backwards. So yes, I hope everyone appreciates the audio quality now. If you want to support the Brothers Wisp, help us pay for various things and cameras and all the other fun things that go into running a podcast. That'd be great. Definitely check out our sponsors. They'll be linked below as well. And take care. Later, all.
See ya.
Greg, it's the Brothers Wisp. Let's take a ride through space on this mothership. Wireless networking. We talk about equipment and methodology, so sit back and start learning. Lighten up the tower so people can start searching. Shooting up the web in neighborhoods, net surfing. We got horrible jokes, we're loud and annoying, but we're informative facts, we're not disappointing. Just give us a listen, cause fun is the mission. I'm telling you, you don't know what you are missing. Ideas and some good comedy given. If you missed the show already, don't worry, you're forgiven.